The Porsche Cayenne's engine purrs to a stop on the pristine estate lawn, its metallic paint gleaming under strings of Edison bulbs that transform the Connecticut mansion into something from a fairy tale. 200 pairs of eyes track the vehicle as it parks with mechanical precision between a Tesla Model S and a vintage Bentley. The valet door opens, and out steps Verity Hayes. She's stunning in an understated way that makes the overdressed crowd uncomfortable. Her light brown hair is pulled back in what appears to be a casually messy high bun, though anyone who's worn a flight helmet would recognize the practiced efficiency of it. A few loose curls frame her face, highlighting the natural freckles scattered across her porcelain cheeks and the bridge of her sharp nose. Her green eyes scan the crowd with the kind of automatic threat assessment that never really leaves you, even 5 years after your last combat mission. The fitted gray t-shirt she wears might as well be a declaration of war against the cocktail dress and designer suits surrounding her. Dark military-style pants and worn brown combat boots complete an outfit that screams she didn't get the dress code memo, or more likely, didn't care. Careful with that clutch, Verity. Mason Reeves's voice carries across the garden party like artillery fire, his champagne flute raised in mock salute. He's exactly what you'd expect from someone who leveraged family connections into defense contracting millions. Soft around the middle, hard around the eyes, wearing a Brioni suit that costs more than most people's cars. That Porsche costs more than you'll make in 5 years parking them. The laughter that ripples through the reunion crowd has the particular quality of people who've never heard incoming fire, who think danger is a quarterly earnings call going badly. Someone's iPhone camera focuses on Verity's face, catching the micro-expression that flickers and dies. Not anger, not embarrassment, just the kind of patient calculation you develop when you've waited 16 hours in an Overwatch position. Her fingers unconsciously find the weight in her jacket pocket, the challenge coin from the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment pressing against her palm like a talisman. 4 counts in, 4 counts hold, 4 counts out. The breathing pattern that kept her steady through 3 tours in Afghanistan, through nights when the Chinooks came back shot to pieces, through the mission in Helmand Province that ended everything. Still rocking that same hairstyle from high school, Brad Coleman's stage whisper is deliberately loud, his Lockheed Martin contractor badge catching the light like a warning. Some people never evolve, do they? I mean, she's literally parking our cars at our 10-year reunion. Remember when she thought she'd actually make something of herself? More laughter. A woman in a $1,200 Hervé Léger bandage dress actually takes a selfie with Verity in the background, already composing her Instagram caption about how not everyone from their graduating class succeeded. The bass from the live jazz quartet thrums through the ground, mixing with the distant sound of rotor blades from Fort Drum 40 miles north, a sound that makes Verity's shoulders automatically square, even as she maintains her carefully neutral expression. Mason walks over, his Tom Ford Oxfords clicking on the paved walkway. Up close, you can see the softness that 5 years of Washington dinners and defense industry happy hours have added to his jawline. He still moves like the high school quarterback he was, all swagger and assumed authority, the kind of guy who peaked at 18 and has been trying to recapture that feeling ever since. You know, Verity, I'll throw in an extra 20 if you're careful with her. He tosses his keys high, the Porsche fob spinning in the air, making her reach for it. The movement pulls her gray t-shirt tight across her shoulders, revealing the kind of functional muscle that doesn't come from a gym but from hauling 100-pound toolboxes and wrestling with stubborn rotor assemblies. At least someone from our class learned their place, right? No shame in honest work. Not everyone can be a winner. The keys arc through the air in slow motion, and Verity tracks them with the same precise focus she once used to track RPGs in Afghan airspace. Her hand snaps up, catches them without looking, muscle memory from 1,000 equipment handoffs in combat zones. The movement is so fluid, so practiced, that Mason actually takes a half step back. Mason, Harper Blackwood's voice cuts through the moment like a blade. The estate owner emerges from a cluster of guests, and even in his 60s, even in retirement, Colonel Harper Blackwood carries himself like he's still commanding the 101st Airborne. His steel-gray hair is regulation short, his blue eyes sharp as winter ice, and when he moves through the crowd, people unconsciously step aside. "Stop harassing my staff." "Your staff?" Mason's confusion is genuine. I thought she was with the valet company. Ms. Hayes is helping with a special presentation tonight. Harper's tone suggests this conversation is over, but Mason, drunk on champagne and his own importance, doesn't recognize the warning. A presentation? What could she possibly... That's need to know. Harper's voice drops to the command register that once directed air cavalry operations over Baghdad. And you don't. The silence that follows is the kind that makes civilians uncomfortable but feels like home to anyone who's worn a uniform. Verity still hasn't spoken, just stands there in her gray t-shirt and combat boots, green eyes steady, that messy bun somehow maintaining its shape despite the evening humidity that's making the other women's $100 blowouts wilt. Brad Coleman decides to break the tension with what he thinks is humor. Come on, Colonel, we're all friends here. This is Verity Hayes we're talking about. Girl couldn't even afford a prom dress, had to borrow one from the drama department. Now she's doing presentations? What's next? She's secretly some kind of war hero? The laughter that follows is uncomfortable, uncertain. A few of the veterans in the crowd, you can spot them by their posture, their haircuts, the way they hold their drinks, exchange glances. Something's off about this whole setup, and they can feel it in the way you can feel a pressure change before a storm. If you've ever been judged by what people see on the surface, hit that like button. Subscribe and ring the notification bell to support all our veterans who serve in silence. Your support through the thanks button helps us honor their untold stories. Verity finally speaks, her voice carrying that particular quality of someone who's had to be heard over rotor noise and radio static. The cars will be safe, Mr. Reeves. I've handled more expensive equipment. It's such a simple statement, delivered so flatly that it takes Mason a moment to process that she might be mocking him. But before he can respond, she's already walking toward the valet station, those brown combat boots silent on the gravel despite their size. The way she moves, economical, purposeful, always keeping the crowd in her peripheral vision, makes one of the older veterans, a Vietnam-era Marine nursing a whiskey neat, narrow his eyes in recognition. The valet station is a small tent set up near the estate's main entrance, positioned to give a clear view of both the driveway and the party. Verity slides behind the podium where the keys are organized, her movements automatic as she logs Mason's Porsche in the system. The other valet, a college kid named Tommy, who's been stealing glances at her all evening, finally works up the courage to speak. "That was brutal," he says, voice low. "These people are jerks." Verity's hands pause for a fraction of a second on the keyboard. They're exactly who they've always been. You went to school with them? A lifetime ago? Tommy wants to ask more, but something in her tone suggests that door is closed. Instead, he watches as she arranges the keys on the board with military precision, each fob hanging at exactly the same height, grouped by arrival time and position in the lot. It's the kind of systematic organization that speaks to years of maintaining equipment logs and mission schedules. Behind them, the party continues its choreographed dance of wealth and connection. The estate sprawls across 15 acres of manicured Connecticut countryside, the kind of property that's been in Harper Blackwood's family for 3 generations, though he's the first to actually earn the money that maintains it. The main house is a colonial masterpiece, white columns and black shutters, every window glowing warm against the approaching dusk. The lawn where the party unfolds could accommodate a helicopter landing with room to spare, a fact that will become relevant in exactly 2 hours and 37 minutes. James Harrison finds Mason by the Raw Bar, where oysters from Blue Point are being served on beds of crushed ice. Harrison's another contractor success story, a man who parlayed his brief National Guard service into a lobbying firm that specializes in translating military needs to congressional understanding, which is a fancy way of saying he helps defense contractors overcharge the Pentagon. "Still can't believe Hayes showed up," Harrison says, sliding a Kumamoto oyster down his throat. "Thought she'd disappeared after the whole thing with Jordan." Mason's expression darkens at the mention of the name. Jordan Hayes, no relation to Verity despite the shared surname, was their class's golden boy. Football captain, honor roll, the kind of all-American kid who made recruiting posters look realistic. He'd gone Army straight after graduation, made captain by 28, and died in Afghanistan 5 years ago in what the official reports called a tragic operational accident. "We don't talk about that," Mason says quietly. "Right. Sorry. It's just weird that she's here. Didn't she wash out of the military or something?" "Medical discharge," Brad Coleman joins them, having overheard. PTSD, supposedly. Couldn't hack it. My buddy at Fort Drum said she basically fell apart after some mission went sideways. They're standing close enough to the valet station that Verity can hear every word, which is exactly what they intend. It's the same psychological warfare they perfected in high school. The careful cultivation of rumors and half-truths designed to isolate and diminish. What they don't know is that Verity's been through actual psychological operations training, the kind where North Korean propaganda plays for 72 hours straight while you're sleep-deprived and stressed. Their amateur-hour cruelty barely registers. An elderly woman with a walker approaches the valet station, moving carefully across the uneven ground. She's dressed simply but elegantly, the kind of understated wealth that doesn't need to announce itself. Verity recognizes her immediately. Mrs. Chen, their high school calculus teacher, the one who always kept extra supplies for students who couldn't afford graphing calculators. "Mrs. Chen," Verity says, coming around the podium to help. "Let me help you with that." "Verity Hayes." The old woman's eyes light up behind thick glasses. "I was hoping you'd be here." Verity guides her to a bench, positioning the walker where Mrs. Chen can easily reach it, but where it won't block the path. It's a small thing, but the tactical consideration of exits and accessibility is automatic now, burned into muscle memory by years of casualty evacuations. "You look well," Mrs. Chen says, though her eyes suggest she sees more than Verity's carefully maintained exterior. "You too, ma'am." Still so formal, Mrs. Chen pats the bench beside her. "Sit with me a moment." "I'm working." Humor an old woman. Verity sits, her posture perfect, hands resting on her knees in a position that could transition to standing in less than a second. Mrs. Chen studies her for a moment, taking in the gray t-shirt, the combat boots, the way Verity's green eyes constantly scan the environment. "I heard you served," Mrs. Chen says quietly. "Yes, ma'am." "And now you're parking cars?" "It's honest work." Mrs. Chen makes a sound that might be a laugh or might be disappointment. "You always were too careful with the truth, Verity. Even in high school, you'd give me technically correct answers that revealed nothing about what you really knew." Before Verity can respond, a commotion erupts near the main bar. Mason has apparently decided to escalate his evening's entertainment. He's holding court with a group of their former classmates, his voice carrying across the lawn with the artificial projection of someone used to being listened to in boardrooms. "You know what the saddest part about tonight is?" Mason's gesturing with his champagne flute, playing to his audience. "We all knew who'd make it and who wouldn't, even back in high school. Some people are just born to be followers, to be the support staff for people who actually achieve things." He looks directly at the valet station as he says this, making sure Verity hears. Several people follow his gaze, and suddenly, she's the center of attention again, 30 pairs of eyes dissecting her appearance, her obvious failure to achieve their definition of success. "Remember when she applied to West Point?" Brad adds, warming to the theme. "Like they'd ever take someone like her. No connections, no money, no future. The recruiter probably laughed his head off after she left." The truth, which none of them know, is that Verity was accepted to West Point. She turned it down for a direct enlistment that would get her to Afghanistan faster, a decision that led to her assignment with the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, the Night Stalkers, the most elite helicopter unit in the United States military. But that's a story buried under classification stamps and need-to-know restrictions. A server in crisp whites approaches the valet station with a tray. "Ms. Hayes, Colonel Blackwood asked me to bring you this." On the tray is a sealed envelope marked with Verity's name and a time, 2100 hours, 9 o'clock in civilian time. She takes it, feeling the weight of what's inside. Not just paper, but something with the density of military-grade electronics. A USB drive, most likely, though she won't open it here. "Thank you," she tells the server, who nods and disappears back into the crowd. Mrs. Chen watches this exchange with interest. "The colonel seems to know you well." "We've met," Verity says carefully. "He was at Jordan's funeral," Mrs. Chen says, and Verity's entire body goes still. "I remember because he was the only one in dress uniform. Everyone else wore suits, but he wore his full Class A's with all his ribbons. He stood in the back, never said a word to anyone, except at the end. I saw him speaking to you." Verity's breathing has shifted, deeper and more controlled. Mrs. Chen, "You don't have to tell me anything, dear. I'm just an old woman who notices things, like how you park cars with the same precision my father used to clean his rifle. He was 101st Airborne, Normandy. He had that same way of always watching, always ready. A smartphone chimes nearby, then another, then dozens, as some kind of group message spreads through the party. Brad Coleman's laugh cuts through the growing murmur as he holds up his phone for others to see. "Check this out," he announces. "I just posted that photo of our class valedictorian parking cars on Instagram. Already got 50 likes. Owls." The caption is perfect. Not everyone from our graduating class made it. Some parked the cars at the reunion. The laughter that follows has an ugly edge to it, the particular cruelty of people who've never faced real adversity mocking someone they assume has failed. What they don't see is the way Verity's hand has moved to her pocket again. Not for the challenge coin this time, but for the phone that's been recording every word since she arrived. Every insult, every small humiliation, every admission of their real character, all preserved in digital amber for the presentation that's coming. Tommy the valet returns from parking another car, his face flushed with indignation. "That's messed up," he says to Verity. "You want me to accidentally scratch his Porsche?" "No," Verity says simply. "Let them have their fun. But they're being exactly who they are, and that's important for everyone to see." There's something in her tone that makes Tommy look at her more carefully, taking in details he missed before. The way she stands with her weight perfectly balanced, ready to move in any direction. The small scar on her left hand that looks like a burn mark but has the distinctive pattern of a hot shell casing. The way her eyes track movement in the reflection of car windows, maintaining 360-degree awareness without obviously looking around. "You're not really just parking cars, are you?" he asks quietly. Verity gives him a look that suggests this conversation is over, and Tommy, smart kid that he is, takes the hint. He busies himself with reorganizing already organized keys, while Verity watches the party unfold, cataloging faces, noting positions, maintaining the kind of situational awareness that keeps you alive in a hostile territory. The estate's security team does their own rounds, and Verity notes they're not your typical rent-a-cops. These are professionals, probably former military given their movement patterns and the way they maintain overlapping fields of observation. One of them, a compact man with the kind of functional strength that comes from carrying full combat loads, makes eye contact with Verity and gives an almost imperceptible nod. Recognition between professionals, though he's clearly puzzled about why someone with her obvious training is working valet. What would you do in Verity's position? Reveal the truth or keep protecting the mission? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. At exactly 1900 hours, 7 o'clock. The estate's lights flicker momentarily. It's brief enough that most guests assume it's just a quirk of the old wiring, but Verity recognizes it as a signal. She excuses herself from the valet station, telling Tommy she needs to use the restroom, and makes her way toward the main house. The route takes her past the main party, where she has to navigate through clusters of increasingly intoxicated former classmates. Stephanie Morrison, who now works for a pharmaceutical company and has had enough Prosecco to forget her usual restraint, actually reaches out and grabs Verity's arm. "OMG, Verity! I literally can't believe you showed up looking like this." She gestures at the gray t-shirt and combat boots with genuine bewilderment. "Didn't you get the dress code? This is a formal event, not a, construction site." "I got it," Verity says, gently but firmly removing Stephanie's hand from her arm. "Then why would you—" Stephanie's voice drops to a stage whisper that's actually louder than her normal speaking voice. "Is this all you have? Because I have a spare dress in my car. It might be a little big on you, but I'm good. Thank you." Verity continues toward the house, leaving Stephanie confused and slightly offended. Behind her, she hears Stephanie telling her husband, loud enough for everyone to hear, "I was trying to help her." Some people just can't be helped. The house's service entrance is around the side, away from the main party. Verity slips through the door and into a hallway that smells of old wood and furniture polish. The sounds of the party fade to a distant murmur as she navigates toward the study where Harper told her to meet him. She passes through the kitchen, where catering staff are plating the next course. They barely glance at her. In her simple clothes, she looks like she could be one of them, invisible to the kind of people who only see the help as furniture. It's an invisibility she's cultivated carefully, the same way she once learned to blend into Afghan villages or fade into the mechanical background noise of a forward operating base. The study door is solid oak, the the kind that would stop small arms fire if necessary. Verity knocks twice, waits 2 seconds, knocks 3 times, the pattern Harper specified. Enter. The study is what you'd expect from a career military officer turned defense consultant. Functional furniture, walls lined with books on military history and strategy, and a desk that's organized with obsessive precision. Harper sits behind it, but he's not alone. A woman in her 40s wearing the kind of understated suit that screams military lawyer sits in one of the leather chairs. Her dark hair is pulled back in a bun, even tighter than Verity's, and her brown eyes have the sharp intelligence of someone who's prosecuted war crimes. "Chief Hayes," Harper says, and the use of her former rank makes Verity's spine straighten automatically. "This is Major Torres, JAG Corps." Torres stands and extends her hand. Her grip is firm, professional. "Chief Hayes, I've reviewed your file. Impressive record, 3 Bronze Stars, Air Medal with V device, Purple Heart. Not bad for someone these people think is a failure." "Ma'am," Verity says, "because what else do you say when your classified service record is being discussed by someone you've just met?" "Sit," Harper says, gesturing to the empty chair. "We need to brief you on tonight's real purpose." Verity sits, her posture perfect, hands resting on her knees. Torres opens a leather portfolio and pulls out a tablet, swiping through what appear to be financial documents. "For the past 18 months, Torres begins, we've been investigating a network of defense contractors who've been selling intelligence to the highest bidder. Not classified intelligence, that would be treason, but battlefield intelligence, the kind that should be restricted but isn't technically classified. Patrol routes, supply schedules, personnel rotations. The kind of intelligence that got people killed," Harper adds, his voice carrying the weight of personal investment. "Specifically," Torres continues, "the kind that got Captain Jordan Hayes and 3 other soldiers killed in Helmand Province 5 years ago." The room goes quiet, except for the distant sound of the party and the ticking of an antique clock on the mantel. Verity's breathing remains steady, but her green eyes have gone hard as winter ice. "You knew," she says. "It's not a question." "We suspected," Torres corrects. "But suspicion isn't evidence. We needed someone inside, someone with the clearance to access the relevant files, but who appeared to be no threat, someone they had already dismissed as irrelevant. So, you had me park cars at my high school reunion." Harper actually smiles at that. "You volunteered, Chief. When I reached out through channels to see if you'd help, you said, and I quote, 'It would be my genuine pleasure to take these bastards down, sir.'" "That does sound like me," Verity admits. Torres pulls out a USB drive identical to the one in the envelope Verity received. This contains the cockpit voice recording from Captain Hayes' last mission. The full recording, not the edited version that was released to the family. It clearly indicates that the Taliban knew exactly when and where the patrol would be, down to the minute. "And you think someone here sold that information?" "We know someone here sold it," Harper says. "Mason Reeves's company, Potomac Defense Solutions, brokered the deal. Brad Coleman's firm, Integrated Security Systems, provided the communication network. James Harrison's lobbying firm made sure no one in Congress asked uncomfortable questions when soldiers started dying in ambushes that shouldn't have been possible." Verity absorbs this information with the same calm she once used to process incoming fire missions. "What do you need from me?" "We need them to admit it," Torres says, "on recording, in front of witnesses. The evidence we have is circumstantial, suggestive but not conclusive. But if they admit to selling the intelligence, especially if they joke about it, brag about it." "They'll brag," Verity says with certainty. "Give them enough champagne and an audience, and they'll brag about anything." "There's more," Harper says. He stands and moves to the window that overlooks the party. From this angle, you can see the entire gathering, all those successful people celebrating their achievements. The presentation I mentioned isn't just cover. At 2100 hours, we're going to play the real recording of Jordan's last mission. The one where he reported civilian presence and was ordered to engage anyway. The one where he questioned the intelligence and was told to proceed. They'll know it was me who— "No," Harper interrupts. "They'll know it was us, the Army, the real Army, not the contracting carousel they've been riding. You're just the delivery mechanism." Torres stands, gathering her materials. There's a helicopter arriving at 2100 to provide transport for some VIP guests. A Apache from Fort Drum doing a flyover as part of a recruiting demonstration. The timing is coincidental, of course. There's something in the way she says coincidental that suggests it's anything but. Verity stands as well, understanding that the briefing is over and the mission is about to begin. One more thing, Harper says. We know this is personal for you. Jordan Hayes saved your life in Kandahar. You were in the bird providing overwatch when his patrol was ambushed in Helmand. We know you've carried the guilt of surviving when he didn't. Verity's jaw tightens, the first real emotion she's shown since entering the study. Sir, the guilt isn't yours to carry, Chief. The men who sold his patrol route, they own his death. Tonight, we're going to make sure everyone knows it. The lights flicker again. Another signal. 2000 hours. 8 o'clock. 1 hour until the Apache arrives. Verity turns to leave, then pauses. The recording. When it plays, people are going to recognize my voice on the comms. Yes, Torres says simply. They'll know you were there. They'll know you tried to call off the strike when you spotted civilians. They'll know you were overruled, and they'll know that for 5 years, you've stayed silent to protect the mission and the families of the fallen. After tonight, that silence ends, Harper adds. With your permission. Verity looks at these two officers, these representatives of the institution she gave her youth and health to serve. Permission granted, sir. She leaves the study and makes her way back through the house, passing through the kitchen again where the catering staff are now plating desserts. The party noise has grown louder, looser, the sound of people well into their third or fourth drinks. She can hear Mason's voice carrying over the others, telling some story about a congressional junket to Dubai. As she exits through the service door, she nearly collides with someone coming in. It's a man in his 50s wearing the kind of casual clothes that suggest he's not a guest. Jeans, a polo shirt, work boots, not unlike Verity's own. But the way he moves, the way his eyes automatically scan for threats, marks him as military as clearly as a uniform would. Chief Hayes, he says quietly, and Verity freezes. Master Sergeant Rivera, retired, 3rd Battalion, 160th SOAR. His voice is graveled from years of shouting over rotor noise. I was Jordan's 1st section chief. I heard you were going to be here. Verity's hand moves unconsciously to her pocket, feeling for the challenge coin. Sergeant, just wanted you to know we remember. The real soldiers, we remember what really happened. Jordan talked about you all the time, said you were the best crew chief he'd ever worked with, said if anything ever happened to him, you'd make sure the truth came out. The weight of that promise, made 5 years ago in a forward operating base in Afghanistan, settles on Verity's shoulders like a rucksack. Roger that, Sergeant. Rivera nods and continues into the house, leaving Verity standing in the twilight. The sun has nearly set now, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple that remind her of evening missions, that golden hour when the helicopters would lift off for night operations. The party continues on the lawn, all those successful people celebrating their achievements, not knowing that in 53 minutes, their carefully constructed world is going to implode. She returns to the valet station, where Tommy is frantically juggling keys as a wave of departing guests apparently decided to leave all at once. Verity smoothly takes over, her system making quick work of the chaos. Each key handed over with the correct car location, each guest directed to their vehicle, all while maintaining the invisible efficiency that good soldiers perfect. Where were you? Tommy asks between customers. That Coleman guy was looking for you, said he had something of yours. Verity's eyes narrow slightly. Did he say what? No, but he was carrying something. Looked like a folder or something. The tactical part of Verity's mind immediately starts running scenarios. Coleman has something he thinks is leverage. Documents, probably, given his connections. The question is whether he's fishing or if he actually knows something. She doesn't have long to wonder. Brad Coleman himself appears at the valet station, and he's carrying a manila folder marked with military stamps. Even from a distance, Verity can see it's a personnel file, and the partial name visible confirms her suspicion. It's hers. Look what I found, Brad says, his voice carrying the satisfaction of someone who thinks they've won. Amazing what you can get with the right freedom of information request. Your whole military record, right here. Want to tell everyone why someone with such an impressive record is parking cars? He opens the folder theatrically, making sure nearby guests can see. But his expression changes as he reads, confusion replacing smugness. This is almost all redacted. Black bars cover 90% of the text, leaving only the most basic information visible: name, rank, dates of service. Everything else, every mission, every commendation, every assignment, has been blacked out by classification stamps. Operational security, Verity says quietly. Some records aren't meant for civilians. Brad's face flushes red. You're lying. This is fake. You probably made this up to seem important. Several guests have gathered now, drawn by the confrontation. Mason joins them, Harrison too, all of them sensing blood in the water. Someone is recording with their phone, the little red light indicating they're streaming live to Instagram or TikTok or whatever platform they think will give them the most views. What's going on? Mason demands. Our little valet here is pretending she had some kind of classified military career, Brad says, waving the redacted file. Look at this. It's all blacked out. Convenient, right? She can claim anything and we can't verify it. Mason laughs, the sound carrying across the lawn. This is pathetic, even for you, Verity. Making up some secret soldier story because you can't handle being what you really are. A nobody who washes out of everything she tries. The crowd has grown to about 30 people now, all of them watching this unfold with the particular attention of people who enjoy witnessing someone else's humiliation. What they don't notice is that several other people are watching too. Harper from the study window, Rivera from the service entrance, and at least 3 of the security team who've positioned themselves at strategic points around the confrontation. You know what I think? Mason continues, playing to his audience. I think she couldn't hack it in the real military, so she's created this fantasy where she was some kind of hero. It's sad, really. The saddest part, Harrison adds, is that she thought we'd fall for it, like we're too stupid to see through such obvious lies. Verity stands perfectly still, her green eyes steady on Mason's face. That messy bun hasn't moved despite the evening breeze, the loose curls still framing her face in exactly the same way they were hours ago. Her gray t-shirt shows no sign of the long shift, no sweat despite the humidity, as if environmental discomfort is something she's simply chosen to ignore. You want to know what's really sad? She finally says, her voice cutting through their laughter like a blade through silk. It's thinking that money makes you matter, that your defense contracts and your lobbying firms and your Connecticut mansions mean anything to the 19-year-olds bleeding out in Helmand because someone sold their patrol routes for profit. The laughter stops. The entire party seems to hold its breath. Mason's face darkens. What are you implying? I'm not implying anything. I'm stating a fact. Soldiers die when contractors prioritize profit over operational security. But you already know that, don't you, Mason? Your company made $3 million selling consulting services to firms that just happen to have connections in Pakistan. Curious how insurgent ambushes increased by 300% in areas where Potomac Defense Solutions operated. You can't prove. I don't have to. The JAG Corps will handle that. It's at this moment that the lights on the estate flicker again, longer this time. When they come back on, every screen in sight, phones, tablets, the outdoor TV near the bar, displays the same image, the seal of the United States Army Criminal Investigation Command. The seal rotates slowly on every screen, and then text appears beneath it. This event is being monitored for ongoing criminal investigation. All statements are being recorded. The silence that follows is absolute. You can hear the distant sound of helicopters from Fort Drum, the clink of ice and forgotten drinks, the whisper of evening wind through the estate's oak trees. Mason's face has gone from red to white, his hand trembling slightly as he lowers his champagne flute. This is intimidation, he stammers. You can't just... Actually, we can. Colonel Harper's voice carries from the estate's outdoor speaker system, clear and authoritative. This is my property, and I've given full permission for this investigation to proceed. Every conversation tonight has been recorded. Every admission of criminal activity will be reviewed by the appropriate authorities. Brad Coleman drops the manila folder he was holding, papers scattering across the manicured lawn. His Lockheed Martin contractor badge catches the light as he backs away from Verity, as if distance might somehow protect him from what's coming. You set us up, he says, voice cracking. This whole thing, the reunion, it was all... The reunion is real, Verity says calmly. Your crimes are real. The only setup was giving you enough rope to hang yourselves with. From inside the house, Major Torres emerges, no longer in civilian clothes, but in full Army service uniform, her JAG insignia gleaming under the party lights. She's followed by 2 military police officers, their white belts and holsters a stark reminder that this is no longer a social gathering. "Gentlemen," Torres addresses Mason, Brad, and Harrison directly. "You're not under arrest, yet, but I strongly suggest you remain for the presentation. It concerns you directly." "I'm calling my lawyer," Mason says, pulling out his phone. "Please do," Torres replies. "You'll want them to hear this too." The crowd has pulled back now, forming a rough circle around the confrontation. Some are still recording, their phones capturing what will undoubtedly become viral content within hours. Others have the shell-shocked expression of people watching their social hierarchy crumble in real time. A sound cuts through the tension, the distinctive whop-whop-whop of rotor blades approaching fast and low. Everyone looks up as navigation lights appear against the darkening sky, moving with the purposeful trajectory of military aircraft on a mission. "Ladies and gentlemen," Harper's voice returns over the speakers, "please direct your attention to the main lawn. We have a special arrival." The Apache gunship comes in low over the tree line, its angular silhouette unmistakable even to civilians. The rotor wash hits the party like a physical force, sending napkins flying, rattling glasses, making the women's elaborate dresses whip around their legs. The carefully styled hair that has survived the humidity finally surrenders to the artificial hurricane of military aviation. But Verity's messy bun holds perfect, those loose curls dancing but never losing their arrangement, as if they have been trained by 100 missions to maintain their position no matter the chaos. She stands perfectly still, as everyone else shields their faces from the debris, her green eyes tracking the Apache's descent with professional assessment. The helicopter doesn't actually land. It hovers at 50 feet, rotors beating the air into submission, searchlight sweeping across the crowd before settling on Verity. In that blazing white circle, her gray t-shirt looks like armor, her stance like a soldier at attention, even though she's technically just standing there. Then something extraordinary happens. A figure fast ropes from the Apache's crew compartment, dropping through the rotor wash with practiced efficiency. Boots hit the ground, knees bending to absorb impact, and then the soldier straightens to reveal Chief Warrant Officer 4 Mitchell, still in his flight suit, helmet under one arm. The Apache pulls up and banks away, its rotor noise fading as it takes up a holding pattern over the estate. Mitchell walks straight through the stunned crowd, his focus entirely on Verity. When he reaches her, he does something that makes every veteran in attendance straighten instinctively. He salutes. "Chief Hayes," he says, voice carrying clearly in the sudden quiet. "5 years ago in Kandahar, you held the overwatch position for 17 hours to cover my crew's extraction after we were shot down. 2 of my men are alive today because you refused to leave until everyone was accounted for." Verity returns the salute with parade ground precision. "Just doing my job, sir." "No," Mitchell says firmly. "You did much more than that, which is why I'm here tonight." Colonel Blackwood asked if I'd like to help set the record straight about what really happened in Helmand, about Jordan Hayes, about the intelligence failures that got good soldiers killed. He turns to face the crowd, his expression hard as granite. "Some of you think war is a business opportunity. Let me tell you what it really is. It's 19-year-olds from Nebraska and Texas and Vermont trusting that the intelligence they receive is accurate. It's crew chiefs like Hayes here working 36-hour shifts to keep birds in the air. It's Captain Jordan Hayes calling off a strike because he saw civilians, only to be overruled by someone safe in an air-conditioned tactical operations center." "You don't know what you're talking about," Mason interrupts, desperation creeping into his voice. "Jordan died in an operational accident. The official report was sanitized to protect ongoing operations," Torres interjects. "The real report, the one we're about to play, tells a different story." She nods to someone near the house, and the estate's outdoor screens come to life. The image is grainy, obviously from a military camera system, showing the interior of a tactical operations center. The timestamp reads 5 years ago, Helmand Province, Afghanistan. Audio crackles through the speakers, and several people gasp as they recognize Jordan Hayes' voice, younger but unmistakable. "Thunder Base, this is Havoc 2-1. We're approaching the target compound. Request confirmation on intel package." Another voice, older, tired. "Havoc 2-1, Thunder Base. Intel confirmed high-value target, minimal civilian presence." Then Verity's voice, clear and professional over the radio. "Thunder Base, Dustoff 7. I have eyes on compound from Overwatch. Significant civilian presence visible. Count at least 15 women and children in the courtyard. Recommend abort. Negative Dustoff 7. Intel paid for says minimal civilians. Havoc 2-1, you are cleared hot. Jordan again, uncertain now. Thunderbase, I have visual confirmation of civilians. Request secondary confirmation before engaging. Havoc 2-1, you have your orders. Intel source is highly reliable. Engage target. There's a pause, static, breathing. Then Jordan. Thunderbase, sir, with respect, I can see kids down there. A different voice cuts in, authoritative and impatient. Several people in the crowd recognize it as belonging to a general who now sits on the board of Mason's company. Captain Hayes, this is Archangel 6. That intel cost us $3 million and came from the highest levels of Pakistani intelligence. You will execute the mission as briefed. That's a direct order. More static. Verity's voice again. Havoc 2-1, Dustoff 7. I count 17 civilians now visible. Say again, 17 civilians in the open. This is wrong, Jordan. I know, Jordan replies quietly. Then louder. Thunderbase, Havoc 2-1. Engaging target, time now. The sound that follows, explosions, screaming, radio chatter, makes several people in the crowd cover their ears. But what comes next is worse. Jordan's voice, broken. Thunderbase, we have significant civilian casualties. Women and children. Oh God, there are kids everywhere. An explosion cuts him off. Verity's voice, urgent now. Havoc 2-1 taking fire. RPGs from the ridgeline. They were waiting. It's an ambush. The intel was wrong. They knew we were coming. More explosions, automatic weapons fire, someone screaming for a medic. Then Verity again. Thunderbase, Dustoff 7, Havoc 2-1 is down. I say again, Havoc 2-1 is down. Moving to provide immediate suppression. The recording ends with the sound of helicopter rotors and gunfire, leaving the estate in absolute silence. On the screen, text appears. Captain Jordan Hayes, KIA, 3 additional U.S. soldiers, KIA, 23 civilian casualties confirmed, intelligence later determined to be deliberately falsified for profit. Someone in the crowd is crying. Others stand frozen, drinks forgotten in their hands. Mason has collapsed into a chair, his face gray. Brad Coleman is backing away slowly, as if he might somehow escape what's coming. Harrison is frantically typing on his phone, probably trying to reach his lawyer. The intelligence, Torres says into the silence, was brokered through Potomac Defense Solutions, Mason Reeves, CEO. The payment was facilitated by Integrated Security Systems, Brad Coleman, president. The congressional oversight that should have caught this was blocked by lobbying efforts from Harrison Strategic Communications. She pulls out a tablet, reading from it. In emails obtained through warrant, Mr. Reeves is quoted as saying, "Who cares if the intel is good? We get paid either way." Mr. Coleman wrote, "These military contracts are printing money. What are they going to do, fact-check every source?" And Mr. Harrison assured them, "I've got enough people in pocket to make sure no one looks too closely." The security team has moved closer now, not threatening but present, making sure no one leaves before this is finished. Several guests are openly weeping. Others look sick. The party atmosphere has transformed into something closer to a wake. During the estate's security checkpoint, a guard's tablet displays a military-grade financial planning app, its interface showing deployment bonuses being automatically invested. The same systematic discipline Verity once applied to pre-flight checks, now helping veterans build wealth after service. The irony isn't lost on anyone that legitimate financial services exist for veterans, while contractors got rich on blood money. "You can't prove any of this will hold up in court," Mason says desperately. "Those emails were taken out of context. The intelligence failure wasn't our fault. We were just intermediaries." "Intermediaries who knew the source was unreliable," Torres counters. "We have testimony from the Pakistani intelligence officer who sold you the information. He's already pled guilty in exchange for providing evidence. He says you specifically asked for intelligence that would guarantee military action, regardless of accuracy." Mitchell steps forward, his presence commanding attention. "Every soldier knows bad intel gets people killed, but you weren't soldiers. You were parasites, feeding off the military-industrial complex without understanding or caring about the human cost." "That's slander," Harrison protests. "I'll sue." "Sue who?" Harper asks, finally emerging from the house to stand with the others. The Army, the JAG Corps, me, please try. Discovery will be fascinating. Verity hasn't moved during any of this, still standing in that same position, her porcelain skin pale under the estate lights, but her green eyes blazing with 5 years of suppressed rage. When she finally speaks, her voice is quiet, but carries to every corner of the gathering. Jordan Hayes was 28 years old. He had a wife and a 2-year-old daughter. He played guitar and coached Little League and sent half his combat pay home to help his mother keep her house. He was the kind of officer who knew every soldier's name, their spouses' names, their kids' birthdays. He once gave me his last MRE because I'd given mine to a local kid who was hungry. She pauses, and in that pause, you can hear the distant sound of the Apache still circling overhead, a mechanical angel of judgment. The last thing he said to me over the radio was, "Tell them I tried to do the right thing." For 5 years, I've kept silent because the mission required it, because the families didn't need to know the full truth of how their loved ones died. But you three, you've spent those 5 years getting rich off the same systems that failed them. You show up here in your designer suits, laughing about parking cars, never knowing you're standing next to someone who held Jordan's hand while he died. Her voice cracks slightly on the last word, the first real emotion she's shown beyond cold anger. Several veterans in the crowd step forward, not approaching, but positioning themselves in clear support. Rivera is among them, his weathered face set in hard lines. Chief Hayes volunteered for this mission, Harper announces to the crowd. When we approached her about investigating these men, she could have said no. She'd already given enough, but she agreed to let herself be humiliated, mocked, dismissed, all to gather the evidence we needed. Every insult tonight, every joke about her parking cars, every sneer at her appearance, it's all been recorded. It shows who you really are when you think no one important is watching. The phone recordings that guests have been making are still going, but the tone has shifted completely. This isn't about capturing someone's humiliation anymore. It's about documenting a moment of reckoning. Torres steps forward with an envelope, which she hands to Mason. Mr. Easter-Reeves, you're being formally notified that you and your company are under federal investigation for fraud, conspiracy, and violation of the Arms Export Control Act. Similar notices are being delivered to Mr. Coleman and Mr. Harrison as we speak. As if on cue, 2 more MPs appear with envelopes for the other 2 men. The precision of the operation, the coordination, speaks to months, if not years, of planning. This is entrapment, Brad Coleman protests weakly. No, Torres corrects. Entrapment would be if we induced you to commit crimes you wouldn't otherwise commit. We simply gave you the opportunity to confess to crimes you'd already committed. The fact that you chose to brag about them in front of witnesses just makes our job easier. The Apache makes another pass, lower this time, its searchlight sweeping across the estate like the eye of God. In its light, Verity looks transformed. Not the class loser they've been mocking, but something harder, more dangerous. A warrior who chose to hide among sheep to catch the wolves. Share this story if you believe our veterans deserve recognition, not ridicule. Next week, we'll explore another hidden warrior's journey. Make sure you're subscribed. As JAG processes testimonies in the estate's study, recruitment brochures for accelerated aviation maintenance certification programs sit on the desk. Programs designed for veterans to translate their military expertise into 6-figure civilian careers. The materials look official, legitimate, the kind of opportunity that should be available to everyone who serves, not just those who know how to game the system. I want a deal, Mason says suddenly. I have information about others, bigger players, people in the Pentagon, Congress. I can give you names. Torres considers this for a moment. That's a conversation for your lawyer and the federal prosecutor, but I'd suggest you start practicing honesty. It's apparently not your strong suit. The crowd is beginning to disperse now, people moving away from the 3 men as if their corruption might be contagious. Some approach Verity, wanting to apologize, to explain they didn't know, they never meant, but she waves them off with quiet dignity. Their approval means as little to her now as their mockery did earlier. Mrs. Chen approaches slowly, her walker clicking on the patio stones. When she reaches Verity, she doesn't say anything, just reaches out and squeezes her hand. It's a simple gesture, but Verity's composure finally cracks slightly, her eyes glistening. Jordan would be proud, Mrs. Chen says quietly. You kept your promise. It took 5 years, Verity replies, her voice barely above a whisper. The truth doesn't have an expiration date, dear. Mitchell approaches, having shed his flight helmet and gloves. Chief Hayes, there's something else. He pulls out a small wooden box, the kind that usually holds military decorations. This was approved last week, but Colonel Blackwood thought tonight would be appropriate. He opens the box to reveal a silver star, the military's third highest decoration for valor. For your actions in Kandahar, specifically for maintaining an overwatch position under heavy fire to ensure the successful extraction of wounded personnel. It should have been awarded 5 years ago, but the mission was classified, Verity finishes. I understand, sir. Not anymore. The operation has been declassified specifically, so your actions can be properly recognized. He pins the medal to her gray t-shirt, the simple cotton somehow more appropriate than any formal uniform could be. The veterans in the crowd come to attention and salute, a gesture that ripples through the gathering, until even civilians are raising their hands in acknowledgement. There's more, Harper adds. The 160th is reactivating your commission if you want it. Full reinstatement at your previous rank, with back pay for the time you were incorrectly discharged for PTSD that was actually moral injury from following illegal orders. Verity stands there for a moment, the metal gleaming against her plain shirt, her green eyes moving across the crowd. These people who thought they knew her, who judged her by surface appearances, who never bothered to look deeper than their own assumptions. With respect, sir, she finally says, I'm done with orders that get good people killed. If the 160th needs me, I'll consult. I'll train their crews, but I won't go back to being a cog in a machine that allows parasites like them, she gestures to Mason and his companions, to flourish. Harper nods slowly. I understand, Chief. The offer stands if you change your mind. The Apache makes one more pass, this time releasing flares that light up the night sky like fireworks. It's a display usually reserved for air shows, a celebration of military capability, but tonight it feels like a salute to one crew chief who chose truth over silence. As the helicopter disappears into the distance, heading back to Fort Drum, the party officially ends. But this isn't the kind of ending anyone expected. Mason, Brad, and Harrison are escorted to government vehicles, their phones confiscated as evidence. Other guests drift away in small groups, voices hushed, the weight of what they've witnessed settling over them like morning fog. Tommy the valet approaches Verity, his young face full of awe. I'm actually going to need help getting all these cars back to their owners, Verity says, with the first smile she's shown all evening. Still want to learn that parking system? He grins, and they walk back to the valet station together, passing the scattered pages of her redacted military file that Brad dropped. In the estate's lights, you can just make out a few unredacted lines. Exceptional valor, outstanding tactical awareness, recommended for immediate promotion, represents the finest traditions of military service. Stephanie Morrison, the pharmaceutical rep who'd offered Verity a dress earlier, stands by her Mercedes, mascara running down her cheeks. Verity, I'm so sorry. We were horrible. You were exactly who you've always been, Verity says, not unkindly, but without absolution. The only difference is, now you know who I've always been too. She hands Stephanie her keys and turns to the next customer, still working, still serving, but on her own terms now. The gray t-shirt that seems so out of place amid the formal wear now looks like exactly what it is, the uniform of someone who doesn't need external validation to know their worth. As the last cars are retrieved and the estate empties, Harper approaches one final time. Chief Hayes, one question. Why did you really agree to this? It wasn't just about Jordan, was it? Verity considers the question, her hand unconsciously touching the silver star on her chest. Every veteran here tonight, every person who's actually served, they saw these men for what they are. But they've been told for years that people like Mason and Brad and Harrison are successful, that they're what we should aspire to be when we leave the service. I wanted them to see that success built on other people's sacrifice isn't success at all. It's just theft with better lawyers. And the parking cars? You could have chosen any cover. Because that's what they think of us, sir. The people who actually do the work, who keep things running, who make their comfortable lives possible. We're just the help to them. I wanted them to see that the person they dismiss, without a second thought, might be the one who held the line when everything went to hell. Harper extends his hand, and Verity shakes it, crew chief to colonel, warrior to warrior. It's been an honor, Chief Hayes. Likewise, sir. As Harper walks away, Rivera approaches. He's been waiting, patient as only senior NCOs can be for his moment. Chief, I've got something for you. He pulls out a worn photo, edges soft from handling. It's Jordan Hayes in full combat gear, standing next to a Black Hawk with a huge grin on his face. Next to him, barely visible in the shadow of the aircraft, is a younger Verity, her face smudged with hydraulic fluid but smiling. He gave this to me the day before Helmand, Rivera says. Told me if anything happened to him, I should find you and tell you something. Verity takes the photo with hands that tremble slightly. What did he want you to tell me? That the best soldiers aren't the ones who follow orders blindly. They're the ones who remember why we fight in the first place. To protect people who can't protect themselves. To stand up to bullies, whether they're carrying AKs or briefcases. He said you were the best soldier he ever served with. Not because you were a great crew chief, though you were, but because you never forgot that under the uniform, we're all just people trying to do the right thing. Verity has to turn away for a moment, composing herself. When she turns back, her green eyes are wet, but her voice is steady. Thank you, Sergeant. I needed to hear that. There's one more thing, Rivera says. He pulls out his own challenge coin from the 160th serial number 0001, the first coin issued to the unit. This was Jordan's. He wanted you to have it. She takes the coin, feeling its weight, its history. 2 challenge coins now, both from the Night Stalkers, both carrying the weight of promises kept and debts paid. The estate is nearly empty now. The catering staff is cleaning up, the band has packed their instruments, the lights are being taken down. But Verity remains at the valet station, Tommy beside her, watching the last traces of the party disappear. So, what happens now? Tommy asks. Now, Mason and his friends face federal charges. Their companies will be investigated. Some people might actually go to prison. The families of the soldiers who died will get a fuller picture of what happened to their loved ones. I mean, to you. What happens to you now? Verity looks up at the sky where the Apache disappeared, then down at the silver star on her chest, then at the photo of Jordan in her hand. Now, I go home. I call Jordan's widow and tell her that everyone knows her husband died a hero who tried to prevent civilian casualties. I make sure his daughter knows her father was a good man who was failed by bad people. And then maybe I finally stop parking cars. Tommy laughs, but it's respectful, understanding. Where will you go? Colonel Blackwood offered me a position training new crew chiefs, teaching them not just how to maintain aircraft, but how to maintain their integrity when the system pressures them to compromise. I think I might take it. That sounds perfect. A black SUV pulls up to the valet station, and Torres steps out. Chief Hayes, we need you to come to the federal building tomorrow to give a formal statement. 0800 hours, if that works. I'll be there, ma'am. Torres pauses, studying Verity in her gray t-shirt and combat boots. Her messy bun still somehow perfect despite the evening's chaos. You know, when Harper first suggested using you for this operation, I had my doubts. You've been through enough. You deserve to be left alone. With respect, ma'am, being left alone was never an option. Not when they were still out there, profiting from Jordan's death, from all their deaths. Still, what you did tonight, letting them humiliate you, maintaining your cover even when they were cruel, that took a different kind of courage than combat. Not really, ma'am. In combat, you know who the enemy is. Tonight was just about letting the enemy reveal themselves. Torres nods and returns to her vehicle. As it pulls away, Verity realizes she's truly alone for the first time all evening, except for Tommy, who's discreetly organizing already organized keys to give her space. She pulls out her phone and scrolls through the notifications. The video clips from tonight are already viral. Defense contractors exposed at high school reunion is trending. The Apache landing is being shared with captions like, "This is what accountability looks like," and "Never underestimate the quiet ones." But there's one message that stops her cold. It's from an unknown number, but the area code is familiar. Fayetteville, North Carolina, home of Fort Bragg. Chief Hayes, my name is Sarah. I'm Jordan's daughter. I'm 7 now. Mom showed me the video from tonight. I don't understand all of it, but I understand you were Dad's friend, and you made sure everyone knows he was good. Thank you. P.S. Mom says if you ever want to visit, you're always welcome. Verity has to sit down on the valet podium steps, the weight of 5 years suddenly crushing. She cries then, really cries, not the silent tears of earlier, but the full body sobs of someone finally releasing a burden they've carried too long. Tommy stands guard, waving off the few remaining staff who approach, giving her the dignity of private grief. When the tears finally stop, she stands, wipes her face, and looks around the estate one last time. The mansion is lit from within now, probably Harper and his security team reviewing the evening's intelligence harvest. The lawn where the Apache landed shows a perfect circle of flattened grass, like a crop circle, proof that tonight really happened. She walks to where Mason's Porsche is still parked, the one that started this whole evening with his cruel joke about her not making in 5 years what his car cost. On impulse, she leaves Jordan's coin on the windshield, right where he'll see it when the federal marshals eventually release his vehicle. Let him remember every time he sees it that his wealth was built on the bones of better men. As she walks to her 15-year-old Honda Civic, her phone buzzes. Mitchell's message reads, "Chief, that Apache tonight, tail number 0506, same bird you crewed in Kandahar. Still flying, still fighting, just like you." Verity smiles and drives away, passing Fort Drum where base lights spread like ground stars. Young crew chiefs work through the night out there. Soldiers prepare for deployments. The machine continues. But tonight, truth won. The quiet professional everyone dismissed proved real strength isn't about money or designer suits. It's about standing watch in darkness so others sleep peacefully. It's about keeping promises when it costs everything. Her phone lights up with headlines. Apache crashes reunion to deliver justice. Valet who was actually war hero. She ignores them, turning up Led Zeppelin loud enough to drown thought. Tomorrow brings testimony at 0800, legal proceedings, congressional hearings. Tonight, she allows herself what she's denied for 5 years. Peace. Not happiness, maybe never, but peace knowing Jordan's killers face justice. His daughter will know her father died trying to save innocent lives. At her apartment, neighbor Frank raises his beer. "Hell of a thing you did tonight, Chief." "Just told the truth, Frank. That's what makes it hell of a thing." Inside her Spartan apartment, photos of Afghanistan cover one wall. Her crew, Jordan, faces asking if she fought hard enough. Tonight, she can finally answer yes. She sets the silver star beside 2 challenge coins. Harper calls about the Fort Drum position. "We're creating integrity training about compromised intelligence. You'll lead it. On one condition. Jordan's widow and families tell their stories too." Done. Report Monday, 0700. Sitting in her kitchen, helicopters pass overhead. She thinks of Jordan's last transmission. "Tell them I tried to do the right thing." "I told them," she whispers. "I told everyone." In darkness, she swears she hears, "Roger that, Chief, roger that."
The stories end here, but the journey continues. Many new episodes are waiting for you. And if you enjoy, please take a moment to like, subscribe to our EV Story channel, and turn on the bell. See you in the next story.